Okay, so for light painting, I'm just gonna have a basic exposure. I'll just kind of go over settings real quick. There really is no certain setting or whatever that I can give you that will work for every scenario. You're gonna figure it out depending on your scenario, of how much light you have and what you're going for the effect. But I'll get you a basic understanding of it. All right, so I'm using a D3200 right here. It's basic entry level DSLR. It's got full manual controls, which is pretty important to it. The dial up here, I have it set to the M on here. Just it's for manual. Most most camera bodies through the 3000s through the 5000s, 7000s, 600s, 700s, 800s. They're relatively similar. And if you have a different camera brand, you'd have to look through the instruction manual. But I couldn't think it'd be too much different. But that's all right. So all right. So I have it set to manual right here. So that's a baseline just for demonstration purposes. I'm gonna set it to ISO 100. ISO 100 will get me the least sensitivity to the light or whatever. So it means I can have the longest exposure I want possible in the given scenario. For the aperture, I set it to f8 just so you get a little bit more time. Your aperture is also going to work relative to your shutter speed, and by cutting down the amount of light that comes in, you can extend your shoot time before it starts to overexpose. So in case you don't know how to change the aperture on a model like this, you have this little circular aperture icon on top of it here. What you end up doing is you hold down the button right here, and then you use the dial on the back of here, and you turn it. So when your number goes up, the aperture gets tighter and tighter, and as you go, once the number gets larger and larger, your aperture gets wider and wider. This lens that I'm using right now is a 3.5. Not really important. I just use the kit lens just so it's easier to relate to most people that are just getting into it. So there's no crazy equipment that you have to have for it. I mean, you can always play with it, but usually wide aperture doesn't really do very much for this type of shoot because you're usually trying to run it down on a higher f number. So I'm going to set it back to 8, and now I got my ISO set, I have my aperture set, and now I'm going to set my shutter speed, which is right here. So as you constantly decrease your or increase your aperture, or not, damn, your shutter speed, as it goes up, your length of time that you're going to be able to light paint goes up more. So any kind of number that doesn't have a little, like the quotation is a fraction of a second. Once you hit the quotation, that's number of seconds. So this is 1 second, this is 1.3 seconds, 1.6, 2 seconds. All right, so just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to set it to, let's say, just 10 seconds. So it's going to be plenty of time to just kind of mess around with it. I have it set to f8, and I can't say that this exposure is going to work perfectly fine the first try. This is just a guess. I'm downstairs, and I have control over all the lights and whatnot, so I'm going to essentially cut them out. It's pretty important to the technique, and I'm going to, for a light, because most people have this, something similar, I'm just going to use my iPhone. I'll just use the light on the back of it, and it'll work fine. Perfectly fine for what I need it to. So let me get this to set up. You're going to need a tripod, or you can set it on the ground or whatever. Something that's stable. Tripod's usually the easiest because you can compose it. Alright, so I just set up a simple subject. I got a Lego piece here, and we're just going to photograph it real quick. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to turn off the lights real quick, and let's see what it's going to give me. See what I'm going to adjust, because I'm sure I'm going to adjust it. So this is going to be a base ambient exposure, and then I'll induce some light from my phone. Alright, so I have a modeling light on here just so you can see what I'm doing. So this is going to be for an ambient, as I had said, so I'm just going to set my camera. I find it to work best when you set it to a self-timer so that you don't get any kind of shaking. So I'm going to set it to a 10-second timer real quick. It's going to flash and then it's going to go off by itself. It's going to give me an overexposed image, but hey, let's see what we got. Alright, nope. The exposure is actually really not far off. I could go up another stop for a proper exposure. So I'm going to leave it as that. I'm going to leave the settings as is. And now I'm just going to induce some light from my cell phone. Alright, so let's set the self timer real quick and try it. So, alright, so let's check out what I got.